NSFW. People. What is the situation that you taught to yourself? Yeah. This is my all-time low.
When I went to my ex-wife's parents to plead for help dealing with their gambling-addicted daughter. Poured my guts out explaining that if we didn't get help for her soon we'd lose the only house our 3 sons have ever known. Over the last year we were together I stopped counting her losses once I hit $100,000. Casino apps are no joke. Anyway, her parents explained they had no idea N would step in ASAP. 2 weeks later my ex and her family got together over the weekend. They didn't tell me anything other than keep an eye on the boys. No problem, figured it was an intervention. Nope, they all went to the casino together. I filed 2 months later after realizing I could secure the house for my kids.
Wait, your in-laws' solution to their daughter's supposedly unknown crippling gambling addiction was to take her to a casino and leave you with the kids? That's toxic.
When I had been on a 3-day party trip and was going back to my apartment on the train. Started to sweat like mad and my stomach did not feel good. Tried to waddle myself home like a penguin, clenching my buttcheeks all the way. About 200 meters from my apartment building it didn't work anymore and I shat my pants. Had to then poo the rest out on the pavement, and get home ASAP. I don't think you could even measure the level of shame, anxiety and stupidity I felt at that time. I was 36 years old at this point.
The amount of times I, a grown woman, have pissed myself in public, drunk, is insane. Anyway, I'm 2 weeks sober today and never touching the poo again in my life. Here's to you doing better too. You got this, my boy.
When I rented a room in a house, and it was the 4 feet by 7 feet floor space behind a home basement bar, you could smell the dead rats in the wall.
I was at work, still drunk from the night before. I was starting to panic, realizing that I would have a client in my office in a half hour and I looked like poo and felt worse. The kicker? I worked in a and alcohol treatment center. I was the financial person and did the intake process with every client before they went to see their counselor. I ended up going to my boss, fessing up, admitting that I had a problem and being told that I needed to get help or I'd have to be let go. I was faced with losing my job, which would lead to losing my home and probably custody of my child. I realized I was on the path to becoming my father and stepmother and I did not want that. I had to make a choice and my whole life hinged on that choice. I've been sober over 17 years now. I am really grateful and humbled by the kind comments. Thank you. And if you are struggling out there, please find a group of sober folks or treatment. AA works for some but not all, and there are other non-AA sobriety groups out there. You are worthy of a healthy life. No matter how bad it is now, it can get better. It might be really hard at first, but it can get better. There is also our Stop Drinking right here on Reddit.
Psych ward. I remember waking up and thinking, I never thought I'd see this day.
Yep, I feel that. Hope you're doing okay now.
More or less. I don't feel great about the state of the world and don't have any hope for the long term, but maybe I can eke out a few more years of contentment with someone precious to me.
Woke up with a tube down my throat, brace around my neck, cuts and bruises everywhere, unable to move with 2 cops right above me. I had to sit there while they explained to me I was hit by a driver who ran a light. I had to drop out of school for a year, lost my job and was out of treatments for over a year. All because of someone's stupid decision. Should have mentioned this, I wasn't in a car. I was crossing a well-lit crosswalk. And yes, I waited until the sign turned green and looked around for cars, still wasn't enough to save me.
When I got in my car and my gut was so big that even with the seat as far back as it could go, it would dig into the steering wheel. I had to suck in my gut before making turns. Heaviest I'd been in my life. 100 pounds down from that weight though. Still going strong.
After my divorce years ago, my buddy thought it was a good idea to give me a keg of Christmas ale. I sat alone at home and filled up an empty milk gallon jug every night with it and drank it until it was gone, but not before using it to wash down multiple Ambien in one sitting. I still look back and wonder how I'm still alive to talk about it.
I'm glad you are still here. You're built tough, that's how. Ambien is weird. I took it once and apparently made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for all 6 of my roommates at the time. Knocked on the door but walked through regardless and just handed it to them. One of them said he was banging his girlfriend when I walked in and straight up put it on the bed next to them even though they were screaming at me to get out.
The day I found my fiancée dead in her tub after having a seizure. It has been a little over a year now and I'm definitely doing better, but I don't think I'll ever have the happiness that I used to have.
My brother died suddenly from a seizure. It still cuts deep. Her love for you will still be there, it will help you through the dark times too. When you're ready to open your heart again, she will be happy for you. Remember, she wouldn't want you to be sad or alone. Big hugs, X.
When I gambled a big percent of my savings in a few seconds, and yes, I lost.
I pawned my wedding ring to get money to feed my pill addiction. It opened my eyes though, and I ended up cleaning up after a few more months and getting my ring back. My wife worked her ass off to buy me that ring, and I was such an addicted piece of poo that I pawned it for a fix. Glad that moment finally woke me up though. 11 years clean now.
Glad you're clean now. 11 years is a good long stretch, may it last till the end of your days, which I hope is a long ways away.
I appreciate it. I really feel for folks that have that monkey on their back. It isn't easy, but it can be done.
When I think to myself, do I have enough alcohol to get myself through the weekend? And buy a bottle of vodka just in case. Then spending the weekend feeling like poo and hating myself, wondering why I'm not happy. Negative feedback loops exist and are a bitch. If you remove yourself from it for 2 weeks, I promise you'll get better. Edit. It's a positive feedback loop, even though the experience is negative. It builds on itself.
I made many random trips to the hardware store because it was right across the street from a grocery store, so I could pick up a handle of whatever vodka was close to $20. You know, they're not good enough to be in a glass bottle but wasn't the absolutely cheapest poo. For me, it was after losing the 3rd job in a row due to pooty performance caused by my alcohol addiction that I was having sex with my wife when whiskey DK kicked in, so couldn't finish. We had yet another discussion about my situation. I decided enough was enough, and if I didn't quit then I probably never would. Thankfully that was almost 3 years ago and I've been sober ever since. Now instead of booze I spend all my money on running shoes and Coke Zero.
Congrats man, I'm proud of you for kicking the habit. It's a rough one, but I feel you on the Coke Zero, too. It was the absent-minded drinking that got to me. 0-calorie soda definitely helps.
Sitting in the suicide naughty room of the trying to figure out how to eat the applesauce they brought me without access to any utensils. Ended up using the lid as a kind of scoop, which was good enough. Definitely an all-time low. Thankfully I'm medicated, in therapy, and doing much better now. And I can eat my applesauce with spoons like a big girl.
They call this the old-fashioned style when eating applesauce.
Sitting in my home, wrecked from a failed overdose attempt, $20,000 in debt, no job, addicted to painkillers, and wondering if I called my mom, if she would even care, or just tell me it was my problem to fix. She cared. Spent the next 10 years putting me back together. Mom died Tuesday morning. As bad as I feel, and having BPD, that's pretty bad, I'm not going to backslide. I won't make all her love and effort meaningless. I will keep things under control and moving forward. Edit. Thanks for all the kind words.
I was in the throes of an alcohol addiction and went over to my elderly neighbor's house to play some cribbage. I found him laying on his couch and I thought he may have simply died there. My first thought was, naturally, to grab his wallet and run. I didn't. Been sober over 25 years now, too.
So was he really dead?
Just a nap. He is, though. Nice guy, hell of a hand at cribbage.
Boyfriend's parents sat me down to tell me they think their son deserves better while he watched and said nothing.
It was the first month of real quarantine. My wife said she wanted a divorce. I was on indefinite furlough from my job. Had to move in with my mom, who wound up dying 6 weeks later. My car was repossessed and I was trapped living out in the middle of nowhere, no income, unable to get a job, and I had no friends because my ex was abusive and had cut me off from everyone I knew, so I had no family or support systems left. That was rock bottom for me.
Spent over $1,000 in a weekend on a combination of alcohol, phone sex lines, and a few prostitutes. The only free call I made that weekend was to the suicide hotline.
Hope you're doing better now. But damn, I gotta say that second sentence is the most noir detective poo I ever read in my life.
My third to last base in my military. Was suffering from PTSD and survivor's guilt, in a very bad way. Was at a new base, no friends around, no family, and having to readapt to a new situation, all over again. couldn't sleep because of the nightmares, and couldn't stay awake because of no sleep. Started drinking heavily. Would start a 2-liter of tequila a day, finish it the next, and start drinking the second bottle right after. Every day. Started going to work drunk. Started doing everything drunk. Would drink while playing games. Would drink to sleep. I was drinking while taking a piss or poo. Gained a lot of weight. Felt like a piece of poo. Couldn't maintain a relationship to save my life. Military career started to tank hard, and during my last official deployment, from this same base, thought about ending it all. Couldn't pull the trigger cause I cried myself away from the gun, when I realized nobody would give a F anyways. Just another suicide statistic and another mandatory briefing for my coworkers. This was between 2013-2014. But realistically started in 2011 and ran until 2019. That was the lowest point in my life. And things didn't really start improving until 2020, ironically, after I spent my first year sober. Trying again this year, and hoping to be done with it all for good. Worked through most of my issues, but the habits are a bitch to get rid of. Edit. Everyone that responded. You folks are awesome. Whomever is in your life is lucky to have you. Thank you for the kind words.
I woke up in the drunk tank. Police found me blackout drunk with none of my friends in sight. Was far from home and it was 4 a.m. They had no choice but to keep me overnight. Waking up on a concrete bed with the vaguest recollection of what happened, effing brutal. Caught the train to the beach that morning and cried for the longest time. The worst part was that nobody tried to contact me, and I was out with a huge group of friends. Edit. Thanks for the silver. Also, for clarification, nobody trying to contact me hurt because I had tried to contact them and I got nothing back. I was self-destructive back then and people were sick of my poo. I moved away for a while and focused on bettering myself, understanding how I'd strained relationships with my actions and accepting that some relationships could not be repaired.
That's how you know who your friends are.
I OD'd on a mixture of painkillers, benzos, coke, and whiskey. Woke up somehow after my friends left me in an unknown house unresponsive. Knew once I woke up that I couldn't go on like that anymore, so I had to get help. After that I was in and out of mental hospitals trying my best to stay clean and get on the right meds. Luckily I was able to do it with the help of a caring doctor who actually listened to me. Been clean for 12 years now, married with 2 kids. Life can get better. Don't give up.
Back in the day when my daughter was like 4 or 5 in the middle of an ugly divorce, me in retraining, not a dime to my name, checking phone booths and vending machines for any change to have the bus fare to pick my daughter up for the weekend. I had to walk 6 miles one way since I didn't have the money for back and forth, and it was so cold, but I did not want my kid to have to walk. I think that was my all-time low.
Not as dire as OP's situation, but about 15 years ago I was flat broke. My girlfriend at the time wanted to talk over lunch and turned out that she wanted to break up. I swallowed my pride and paid for our meal with the only money I had left. The change was just enough for me to choose to buy a pack of ramen for dinner or take the train home. I chose the ramen and walked for 5 miles. The following day I got a call from my client that they wouldn't be able to transfer until the end of the month. I went out for a walk trying to figure out how to survive until I get paid. I met a guy at a park and asked him if he was willing to buy my iPhone. He declined, but said he wanted my watch instead. Without even flinching, I gave up a birthday present from my sister. Lowest point of my life.
This time last year, I had left my friends and job in another state and moved to the middle of nowhere to get sober and be with family. I had no car, no home, no friends, and withdrawals from several substances. Probably the lowest I had ever been and was on the verge of suicide. Glad I stayed strong though, because now my life has completely changed for the better. Edit. Wow, this is easily my most interacted comment ever. Thank you strangers for the encouragement and awards and kind words. I really hope that this helped someone who is going through it right now.
I did a similar thing back in August 2016. Moved home to be with family and get a grip on my alcoholism that was, by that point, I think within a year of killing me. I lost everything. Friends, career, the woman I thought I wanted to marry. 5.5 years later I'm happy, healthy, married, we just bought a house. I think about those dark days a lot though. Stay strong. It gets better. I will be rooting for you.
Today is the 1-year anniversary of my wife's sudden death. We were HS sweethearts and we were married for 35 years. 3 months ago I was diagnosed with dementia. I don't have anything else to lose, so I guess this is rock bottom.
I am so sorry you are going through all of this. That has to be terribly difficult. I hope you are not alone in dealing with this. If nothing else, you have an internet stranger wishing all the best for you.
Wife came out as gay, not bi, and told me her latest girlfriend had made it a condition of their staying together that she would no longer have sex with me. We separated, I began drinking to excess and was well on the way to becoming an alcoholic. By a great stroke of luck I was offered a job in an overseas office of my employer, took it, made a new start, met my future second wife, recently celebrated my 42nd anniversary with her and just became a grandpa.
This happened to my dad, and I swear I'm not trying to be a one-upper, but her new partner was a clown and she decided to be a clown too. My stepmother left my father to go be a lesbian clown. Like they did normal clown gigs. They were actual performing clowns, to the best of my knowledge. I didn't keep in touch with her after that, she always hated me. Also, there's nothing wrong with being a lesbian or a clown, it's when your stepmom leaves your dad to go be one that it struck me as funny.
A few months ago, when I was seriously considering burning myself to death because I had got better options that would traumatize the least amount of people. I just sat on a bench under a nice tree and really thought hard about my suicide options. Obviously I did not do this, but it's been the one and only time I've tried to seriously make a plan to take my own life.
Mom and I came home to an eviction notice on our front door. We'd gotten behind on rent. Mom had just a few months prior gone into kidney failure and was on dialysis. She couldn't work. My dad was working full-time, I struggled to find a job, was working a summer job at a water park which helped a little but, not much. I felt so worthless. I began thinking to myself that if my parents didn't have to care for me, they'd have OT so much better off. I drove to work, almost in tears the whole way, thinking what a burden I was on my parents. I started to speed up, faster and faster. I was gonna crash my car into a guardrail or the bridge support of an overpass. I remember going 90 miles per hour with my thumb on the release for my seatbelt. I was gonna take my seatbelt off just to make extra sure the impact had the best chance to kill me. I started to think about my mom mostly. How hard this would be for her, losing the house and her son at once. I thought how expensive a funeral would be and that it'd just make things that much harder. I took my finger off the button for my seatbelt and slowed down, then drove to work. I remember clocking in, I was still shaking a bit from what I was so close to doing. Someone asked me what was wrong and I just fell apart. I started bawling my eyes out and slumped to the floor. Easily one of the worst days of my life. Edit. Holy poo, I did not expect this response. For every kind comment, thank you all so much. I am truly moved by the support I've gotten from so many of you, not just towards myself but for others who have mentioned going through similar situations. Covering a few things I saw asked in comments. This all happened about 7 years ago, things are better now. Our family helped raise money for us and we were actually able to keep the house. Mom is still on dialysis waiting for a kidney transplant. She has a lot of health issues that have complicated things, but we've been working on them and I think are very close to getting her where she needs to be. I have a better job now, it's still only part-time and I'm looking for full-time work now, but it's helped a ton, especially with some of the bonuses we've gotten over the last couple of years. I'm doing better myself. I have my rough days, but I have some amazing friends I can lean on for support, as well as a dog that I love with all my heart and she always cheers me up. Thank you all again so much. The awards and upvotes are cool, sure, but honestly seeing the support you all are giving each other is so much cooler. The internet can be a real poo hole, but you guys definitely make it a better place to be. For everyone else struggling with similar situations, thoughts, my heart goes out to you. I believe in you, and I hope you can see it through to better days.
My heart ached reading this. I'm so sorry you had this experience. Even at your lowest moment you still thought so compassionately about your mother. I really hope things are better these days.
It was rough. Things are better. We have a great family that sold t-shirts and stuff to raise money and got us the money we needed to pay back the rent we owed as well as a few months in advance. It's been 7 years now.
My 26th birthday. Had just moved to Philadelphia with my band. No job yet, but searching frantically for one. Very poor. No car. Not sure how I was going to pay rent at the end of the month. The day before my birthday, my girlfriend breaks up with me. Probably because I was unemployed and broke, but maybe other reasons. I was devastated and sick from heartbreak. That night, I wake up around 3 a.m. with a pain in my side back. It gets worse and worse every minute. I'm pretty sure I'm about to die, so I yell for my roommates for help. They call an ambulance and I'm rushed to the emergency room in one of the worst hospitals in Philadelphia. Doctors believe I have a kidney stone, though because I'm in one of the worst hospitals in the city, they don't fully believe that I'm in excruciating pain and refuse to give me any medication for the pain, as I could just be a junkie looking for a handout. So I lie on a table in the throwing up from the pain and shrieking for about 3 hours while they push fluids through me. After the ordeal, they tell me I should be able to pass the stone at home and that I'm free to leave. It's now about 8 a.m., and I am in my pajama pants and slippers and a t-shirt. It's early November. I'm standing outside of the hospital. I don't know where I am as I was very new in town. I have no keys, wallet, or phone as I wasn't thinking of those things while I was about to die when the ambulance picked me up. Couldn't call anyone. Couldn't pay for a taxi. I walked about 2 miles in my pajamas in the cold, asking strangers for directions. They couldn't rob me, as I had nothing to steal except my pants. I finally get to my house. I'm freezing, exhausted, still in pain. My slippers were worn down to my bare feet. Get to the door and it's locked. My roommates are at work and I have no way to contact them. I walk to our landlord's office, another mile or so, to grab a spare key. The person working there needed some proof that I was who I said I was. Fortunately, my hospital bracelet had my name on it, so I got the key and walked another mile back to get into my house. Final straw was I had a job interview at Radio Shack scheduled for that morning. I called the hiring contact and told them what had happened, and they didn't believe me and told me not to bother coming in. I said, "No, I'm coming in." Got dressed, hopped on the 29 bus, and went into the store. I found the manager, pulled up my sleeve and showed him my hospital bracelet and bloody IV cotton still taped to my arm. He apologized for not believing me and wanted to do the interview. A few days later, I received my bill for the hospital, ambulance for around $3,500. Hired for the job, but wouldn't be able to start for another 2 weeks for the background check, etc. Still broken, sick and in pain, a neighbor said he had some work for me while I waited. The work was digging out a Philly dirt floor basement. Pickaxes, shovels, buckets, mold, and old Philly stink. While breaking up rocks and about to die for the second time in 24 hours, still broke, single, and technically unemployed, I realized this was the lowest I'd ever been. Life is good now though, so I reflect on that time as a character-building experience. Need to experience the dark to appreciate the light sometimes.
I ran away from home at 17 to escape from being constantly RPD by my mother. I had saved up some money, but nowhere near enough to get a place to live, so I lived on the streets in NYC. I figures that I could turn tricks to save money, which was a correct assumption. However, it seems that men like young guys way more than women. So, my all-time low was the first time I had to suck a cock for $50 and pretend like I was super into it. Hey, you asked. Edit, thank you all. Holy crap, this blew up. To answer some questions, yes, I did therapy, best decision. My whole identity was stolen and my therapist is the only reason I was able to function. I also tried meds, but hated them. My therapist tells me I have some work-related form of PTSD, because I panic hard, a lot. I got called to my new principal's office once and almost broke down. She just was giving me a new contract for the year. Everything scares me now. The boss did have some justice served to her. She managed to lose the school a few teachers. Enough of us put in formal complaints that she was investigated. She left and hasn't returned. Last I heard, she had drunk away her life savings. I wanted to be a teacher since I was 7. I organized my whole life around it. I aimed my grades towards it. At the age of 26 I finally got my first full-time position. 2 years later, the boss kicked me out after a year of intense bullying from her and her executive team. She not only kicked me out of the school, she tried to destroy my whole career. If she had succeeded, I'd have never taught again. She attacked me, claiming I was a terrible teacher. My father died not long before this happened. She said I didn't get over it fast enough. She attacked viciously. I broke. All because she wanted her friend in my position. After getting out, I had no job and my mental health was broken. I had been attacked and humiliated in a job I had been working towards for 20 years. The first morning I woke up unemployed, I turned on my lamp and stared at the ceiling, silent, crying for 3 hours. My whole life shattered. The job I wanted all my life, shattered. I had never felt so low. I lost my dad and my life's purpose so close to each other. I've got a new teaching job in a much better space. But it's been 3 years and my mental health is still not okay.
I had just quit my PT job, and naturally went out to celebrate. I got decently drunk, but nothing too special. I got home and fell asleep. I woke up in the morning pretty hungover, and had to take a poo. I wore nothing but my boxes at the time. I went to toilet and did what I had to. Only after that I realized that there was no toilet paper left in the toilet, and that I had to get some from the closet next to the toilet. I got up, but the boxes tangled to my ankles and I fell on my face. Lying on the ground, I had a little reflection moment. I had been unemployed for less than 24 hours, and already I was lying naked on the floor, hungover and unwiped poo in my ass cheeks.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.